They say Virginia is for lovers, but if you ask a majority of NASCAR's Cup Series drivers, love might be a strong word for the challenge that lies ahead at one of racing's more treacherous tracks in the entire circuit. Welcome in, everybody, to week 26 of Around the Track, believe it or not. Gabe McDonald with you, and the drama is about to unfold at Richmond. The playoffs are knocking, and the space to get in at any level of NASCAR is very slim. One of the guys slightly above the cut line is on the show today. RFK Racing's driver, the 17, Chris Buescher, is in Garage Confidential. Plus, one of the most connected people in the garages, NASCAR writer for The Athletic, Jeff Gluck, calls in from the track to give his insight ahead of the weekend. But don't spin your wheels, folks. Let's go ahead and hit it and drop that green flag and get you ready for this weekend's action. We're just a year removed from the drama at Richmond last year, where Austin Dillon moved Joey Logano to win the race. But the tactics used had NASCAR stepping in to take AD's playoff ticket away. We'll talk to him more later in the show. But sans the bump and run, this short track eats tires like no other. The option tire from last year will be the one to use this weekend, so it's on the drivers to communicate with crew chiefs to make sure they have the right amount left to stay competitive late in the race. Dubbed the action track, drivers won't have as many grooves to race with as in years past. It's a challenge to pass here at Richmond.
Richmond being really, slick, old asphalt and slow mid-corner, it's going to be a lot different at Richmond. So yeah, you hope some stuff translates, but Richmond's kind of its own beast.
Yeah, I think Richmond's one of those racetracks that it's you really have nowhere to hide as far as your performance. So I mean, every week, man, I'm trying to win the race. That's going to benefit my playoffs, and that's what I'm paid to do. So, and that's what I want to do. So. There is an opening because there's usually is a lot of green flag runs, but because there's a lot of green flag runs and it's such a tricky racetrack, there's not really anywhere to hide if you're not any good. It's a tough racetrack if you're really struggling for performance.
Let's go and get to those track trends ahead of the weekend. When it comes to Richmond, it's all about that final stage. That's because in the last 8 races here, if you've won a stage, you don't take the checkered flag. Overtime is a very real possibility here. The last 3 Richmond Cup races had a caution in the final 10 laps, creating late race drama. Here's an important one for this weekend. 5 of the drivers not locked into the playoffs have won at Richmond, including Kyle Busch, who boasts 6 wins at this very track. You also have Brad Keselowski, Austin Dillon, Chris Buescher, and Alex Bowman being the others. And don't be looking for a youth movement at all at Richmond. Wild stat in this one, in the last 13 races here, only 1 driver under the age of 30 was declared the winner. Well, time to bring in one of the most respected people when it comes to NASCAR coverage, and he's no stranger to Around the Track, and he's no stranger to your news feeds as well. If it's breaking news, he is always there. Jeff Gluck of The Athletic back with us on ATT. Welcome inside the show, my friend. How you been?
Man, I've been doing good. It's crazy that there's only 2 races left before the playoffs in NASCAR. Like, what? It's crazy how the season gets away like this, but here we are again.
Yeah, it seems like once you hit that summer stretch, it definitely speeds up from there. And, of course, getting ready for the playoffs coming up in a little bit in Darlington. But talking about this weekend, when you ask drivers about Richmond, it's really hit or miss, Jeff. We've only got 1 race here a year now, and I think the only person that's mad about that is one Denny Hamlin. We know NASCAR is a short track program issue it's trying to solve, but in the interim, how do drivers solve the action track this weekend?
Man, it's going to be probably all about tires. I mean, if you're into tire wear and stuff, you're going to be a happy person because Goodyear is bringing their softer tire. Last year they had 2 different types of tires. They're bringing the softer version, and Richmond is a track where already the tires wear out very quickly. So it's going to be all about managing your tires and finding the speed that way. It's probably going to get strung out a little bit, but it's going to be about the veteran guys who know how to conserve their stuff and save it for the battles and know when to use it. So kind of a strategy race, but also it could be a very compelling one because I think it's going to be a battle of heavy hitters.
And you mentioned the tires, obviously, they really get eaten up like a $2 steak dinner at Richmond's, shooter slightly loose set up from what we saw last year here. Do you think NASCAR maybe got it right with this tire set? How do you see this potentially playing out? And do you think there could be even more changes when it comes to that?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, the next-gen car has just not been great on short tracks, and so everybody's like, all right, we don't know how exactly to fix the car, so what can we do? Let's focus on the tires. Can we get Goodyear to make as soft of tire as possible? Please, Goodyear, help us. Bail us out of this mess. So Goodyear thinks that they've done this, at least at Richmond, with this tire. They've used it at a few other tracks too, but Richmond it's really effective because of the short sort of cheese grater effect on the tires anyway. And, this is what you want, right? Because the drivers can choose, okay, do we want to go super hard and drive really fast early in the run, but we're going to be then penalized. Our tires are going to wear out faster, and then everybody else will pass us. Or, we kind of just play it conservative and take it easy. And then as the other people who have zoomed away, they'll start to fall back to us. We'll pass them at the end, that kind of thing. So the veteran guys are the ones that have the most experience doing that. The Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch type guys, Brad Keselowski. So I would look for people like that to be able to do that really well. But it'll be the type of race where you have to be patient and sort of let it play out.
With these 2 races left, the cut line is definitely, just as tight as it's been when you think about, obviously, the guys that are fighting to get into the playoffs. 3 open spots. You got Tyler Reddick, 117 points, clear of the cut line. It would really take a miracle for him not to make it at this point. Alex Bowman, he's next at 60 up. Model show he's in good position going into Richmond, and then obviously got Daytona coming up too. Then it's a battle of those RFK drivers for that final spot. Chris Buescher, 34 points in front of his teammate Ryan Preece, and everyone below that. Really any must-win situation over these next couple of weeks. And Jeff, Richmond, these 3 spots might be safe for the drivers in them now. Come Daytona, though, that could change. How do you see this playing out? Do we get 2 new winners, or do we kind of, keep the cut line kind of at play and maybe some other guys coming up as well?
Dude, honestly, before last year, I would have said there's no way that Richmond is going to be one of those races that gets a new winner. And then Austin Dillon, out of nowhere, not only he was a controversy, right? Because he wrecked 2 guys to win it, and
right.
They took his playoff eligibility away and stuff. But everybody forgets, before that, he was going to win the race straight up, and there was a late caution that took it away from him. Mm-hmm. He, out of nowhere, was going to win this race. And so it's like, okay, well, wait a minute now. Like, could Kyle Busch, who's really, really, really good at Richmond and Dylan's teammate, could he use that same setup? And, suddenly he takes off at Richmond and he wins his way into the playoffs. So I don't think it's just Daytona that is going to be a new winner. I mean, we could really see one at Richmond. I don't think it's favored to happen. I think it'll be a Joe Gibbs Racing driver, a Hendrick Motorsports driver, one of the usual suspects. But I think it's totally possible we could see a new winner, and that could really, really upset the playoff picture.
And of course, that fight, around the cut line is certainly brutal to get into the postseason, but there's still a fight at the top of the standings because that prize equally as important to get that regular season championship. William Byron did take control of the regular season point standings for that top 5 finish last week at Watkins Glen, 42 points above his teammate Chase Elliott, who just had his first finish below 20th this season. He's been consistent all year in the 9 car. Then you have Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, and Christopher Bell still lurking around 2 to get that regular season title. If you win it, though, it's almost like getting a bye into round 2. Is this really Byron's to lose going into these next couple weeks?
I think it is now. And it really, for Chase Elliott fans, you've just got to be just tearing your hair out, because Chase Elliott was down over 100 points after Michigan. And then in like 6 races, he had this great run, and he came all the way back to take the points lead away from Byron. And he held it for 2 weeks, and then suddenly, poof, it's gone again. And Byron has taken control with what you mentioned was really a bad timing to have a bad day for Elliott at Watkins Glen, his first finish outside the top 20 all season. So now it's really, to me, it's like Byron and Elliott are probably going to be pretty even at Richmond. So it comes down to, like, is Byron going to get caught up in a wreck at Daytona, which, hey, that could totally happen, right? And then Elliott could take advantage there. But other than that, I think it's Byron in control at this point. And as you said, winning the regular season title is worth 3 races of wins for bonus points, 15 bonus points for the playoffs. So that's pretty significant.
Absolutely. And real quick, before we get you out of here, we got to know, what's the fit check looking like for your good friend and our friend of the show, Jordan Bianchi? I remember the yellow lemon suit back in Daytona. Is there going to be anything close to that this weekend?
I don't know what he has in store, but I tell you what, my daughter, who's 6 years old, is now asking me to see what Jordan is wearing. She wants to look through my pictures on my phone of Jordan, and then she'll laugh. She'll cackle out loud. She'll say, ha, 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 why did he wear that? What was he thinking with that one? So that's really brought me a lot of joy, really, I have to say.
Hey, he definitely, has the fashion advice for a lot of those. I might have to tap into some of those fits as well. Maybe not the yellow suit, but some of the other ones, maybe throw in a beret. Well, you can read Jeff every day in The Athletic and watch him on The Teardown with Jordan Bianchi, of course. And Jeff, we'll see you at the track, and someone who can't wait to start his engine is waiting in Garage Confidential.
There's a small handful of races where you look back and it just beats you up, knowing that we were that close.
Chris Buescher has raced pretty darn well this year, but still has 0 wins to show for it. So how does he plan to clinch a postseason spot with just 2 races to go? We sit down with the 17 coming up next. And many call Connor Zilisch the future of NASCAR, but is he going to be able to finish the season after that scary fall in victory lane last week? He did have surgery earlier in the week. We've got an update coming up next. A look at any NASCAR pit crew in the Xfinity or the Cup Series. More than 3/4 of these guys are former college or pro football players. But there's one driver who wants a specific NFL team's players on his gridiron pit crew. Find out who when Around the Track continues. Back here on Around the Track, an update on Xfinity Series star Connor Zilisch. He did have surgery this week on the collarbone he broke in victory lane, slipping off his car after winning the race Saturday at Watkins Glen. A steel plate was put in to help his healing process. Now, there's no Xfinity Series race this weekend in Richmond, so he's got some extra time to heal up. If you remember, Shane Van Gisbergen had a similar injury a few years back and raced within 2 weeks. Connor nor Junior Motorsports hasn't said what he'll do yet. Xfinity back on the road next weekend down in Daytona. Well, the race to the NASCAR playoffs is as tight as can be, folks, with 2 races left for potentially 2 first-time winners this year. Chris Buescher has raced very well for RFK Racing this season, but still has yet to find his way in victory lane. And he's hoping that all changes this weekend at the action track. Our Joey Ellis sat down with the 17 and has more in this week's Garage Confidential.
All right, Chris Buescher is the number 17 driver for RFK Racing, currently as it sits on the right end of the playoff bubble, very tight playoff bubble. We'll get to more on that in a second, but big weekend for you at Watkins Glen, just points-wise, obviously a 3rd place finish there. You would have loved to have won the whole darn thing, but I mean, the takeaways leaving there now heading into the final 2 races of the regular season, what are they?
Yeah, Watkins Glen was really strong for us, right? And obviously we wanted it to be more like last year, and we had a great time. We had our build submarines Mustang up there with fantastic speed yet again, flipped some strategy around and took some big gains with some points, which ultimately are helping us on that cutoff bubble and gave us a little bit more cushion.
How about you, the partnership with RFK Racing as well? You get a new teammate now with the 60 Ryan Preece this year, still a guy who's chasing you down in the playoff stand. I mean, how do you navigate that interesting dynamic in terms of that, being the teammate, but also kind of looking out selfishly for your own self?
Yeah, that's how it would work, right? So, we've had a lot of big changes here this year at RFK, and Ryan Preece coming in, and that whole 60 team being put together is a rather large undertaking. Talk them up a little bit to point out that RFK as a whole is a whole lot stronger than we've ever been. And which means we're all competitive, which means we're going to find ourselves around each other. Right. But yeah, as we get into this last little fight, and as we realize we're fighting each other, it's going to be nice to know that we're going to be able to race hard. You know, I guess maybe I can laugh about it a little easier right now, being on the top side of it. But it's going to be a fun battle all the way to the end.
You said after Watkins Glen, you're greedy, this team's greedy. You want more. Obviously, the most simple way to get in the playoffs is just to win one of these next 2. But you also said you don't want a point race as well at the same time. How do you kind of navigate, obviously aggressively trying to race for the win while also not maybe almost too aggressively playing your way out of it as well at the same token?
There's a balance. I don't like points racing. No. By definition, right? We're not going there just to try and put points on the board, trying to figure out how to win, and that means being aggressive when it's calculated, and that means reading the situation when need be. I think it's important to be able to take a step back and say, look, we have the ability to run 8th today. Do not go finish 30th because you were trying to get to 3rd. You know, if you got a chance to win, then you got to take that chance, and I don't know, just race with a certain level of awareness and respect for others, so that hopefully you get that back as well when you're in the fight, and especially once you make it in the playoffs.
The next 2 races to close out the regular season, Richmond and then Daytona, 2 places you've already currently won at. Does that kind of success there, does that help as you head into those? I mean, or is it quite literally it's a new race? Do you kind of lean on that experience though there?
It helps Richmond. Yeah. It makes me feel better about that one. Doesn't help Daytona so much. Yeah. We know how that one can go. Yeah. And for Richmond, there's a certain handful that are consistently very good there. We've been able to slowly insert ourselves in that conversation. When you think about Daytona, that's one that's gotten us in the past, right? For the end of our season, our regular season, and heading into playoffs, it makes it a little bit messier, no matter what side of the line you're on. So it should be easy to have a win after Richmond and be going to that one laughing at what could happen versus stressing about it.
All right, Chris Buescher, currently as it sits on the right side of the playoff bubble, trying to win his way into the postseason in the final 2 regular season races. Appreciate you doing this. Good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, the A's created controversy of this track last year, so much so that NASCAR had to step in. But why are people comparing the driver of the 3 to the NFL's Carolina Panthers? That answer is coming up next. And the unpredictability of Daytona is just 1 week away. But before NASCAR's elite heat the world's most famous superspeedway, you can have the chance to do so. We'll explain when Around the Track continues. Back here on ATT, when this season started, it was Riley Herbst who was tabbed to be the favorite to win Cup Series Rookie of the Year. SVG heard that and said, no, sir. Maybe even took it personally. Shane Van Gisbergen has already locked up the 2025 Rookie of the Year. His 4 race wins, all on road courses, are the most by any rookie driver ever. It's a similar situation in the Xfinity Series. SVG's Trackhouse teammate Connor Zilisch has 6 wins in his debut season. Trophies in the bag for him, and we do expect him to be called up to the Cup Series to drive the 99 car for Trackhouse next season. Well, having credentials like being a Daytona 500 champion, an Xfinity Series champion, and driving the iconic 3 in the Cup Series makes you pretty famous. For Austin Dillon, that's cool, but he wants you to know that he is a loud and proud member of the Roaring Riot. That's right, he's a Carolina Panthers fan and even wants some of those guys on his pit team. Take a listen.
Any other Panther to put on your pit team for the 3, which one are you taking?
Definitely, I think Xavier Legette, just for the entertainment value each week at the track. He's also a freak athlete. I think he'd be a great jack man. We need a good couple tire changers. So I'm going to throw in Chuba in there because he's got the heart. Bryce Young could change tires, small guy. And then we need another carrier. Who would be a good tire carrier?
I mean, Icky, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, Icky's too big. We need a little more speed in that position. Let's go with
Maybe one of the rookie DNs?
Nick Millen, or rookie DN. That's
Scorton or Princely?
Scorton, I mean, he graded really high, so let's go with Scorton. I like the youth.
Paul Swan, watch yourself. Your job might be in danger now.
In my opinion, I think Icky would be better as a gas man. Well, Austin Dillon could use a few NFL powerhouses on his team in the future, but in the past, he's only needed what he's got to take Daytona. Then again, it's a wild card in general. Nearly a third of the field for next week's race, 14 drivers, have already won at the International Home for Racing. All that means is anyone can win. This is a who's who between 500 and firecracker wins on the superspeedway. Guys like William Byron, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and a lot of other names, including Kyle Busch, have gotten it done as well. And with that said, Daytona is synonymous with wrecks. Any superspeedway is. Luckily, our own Michael Sack got to drive it without incident. Better yet, he's showing you how you can do it too.
There's a reason they call it the granddaddy of racing. From Gordon to Earnhardt, Daytona has seen all the greats. And through the track's racing experience, the not-so-greats, such as yours truly.
We make it as close as we can to the real thing.
They're not kidding. Folks at NASCAR do everything to ensure an authentic experience.
Full-blown turf track for 4 lanes, cars to do 210 miles per hour.
And it slides right on.
Wow. The suits are heavy and the cars are fast. In fact, these bad boys are the exact same ones once used by the drivers.
I'd say just relax, don't get nervous. If you look at the best drivers, their heart rates are down.
My guess is that wasn't the case when they first got into a car.
I believe it's going to be right there.
Okay, I won't touch it. I was nervous. And to be honest, after the first turn, I was ready to pack it in. But then a funny thing happened as I powered past 4,000 RPMs. I started to get a little more confident. This was becoming fun. It felt like I was driving 300 miles an hour. In reality, I barely pushed past 130. But for someone who still doesn't know how to drive stick, I felt pretty accomplished.
No judgment here because everybody's equal. If you can get in a car and if you have mobility to have the wits to drive, you're all good.
I'm not a driver. However, now I can say I played one on TV.
Something that I need to get into in the near future. Well, though he couldn't use a win as a playoff ticket, Austin Dillon still got to burn it down and enjoy victory lane after this very race last year. Who will run the show at Richmond this time around? We got the odds from the books and our victory lane locks coming up next right here on ATT. Back here on Around the Track, sportsbooks love a hometown story, so much so they're giving the best odds to the man from Chesterfield County, Virginia. Denny Hamlin sits at 4-1, while teammate Christopher Bell is just behind him at 4.5-1. Kyle Larson still searching for a regular season championship at 7.5-1 to get it done, as is William Byron, who leads him in that category. He's 8-1 for the Hendrick driver. Joe Logano rounds at the top 5 at 9-1 to get it done at the action track. One last order of business. You know what Vegas thinks, but now it's time for my 2 cents with my victory lane lock for this weekend at Richmond. We talked about it earlier in the show. Veterans get it done here. How about rowdy Kyle Busch to get back into victory lane? He's already done it 6 times at this very track. Hasn't won since Gateway in 2023. He is starving for a win, and I think he makes it back-to-back in 2024 and 25 for RCR to get into victory lane at the action track. We'll see if he can get it done, but that's going to do it for this week's Around the Track. We'll see you back here next week as we get you ready for the regular season finale at Daytona.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.